friends, not friends, people who don't know me, listeners from around the globe. My name is Bob Starkey, and this is Dad Bod Walking. Dad Bod Walking has been out for a while now, and when I started it, I had no real assumptions about what it would be, where it would go. Obviously, when you start something new, you hope for success, but what is success? Sometimes it's hundreds of thousands of people following you, and sometimes it's just feeling good when it's done. And I think that's where I'm at. Um, I am surprised when I hear on the streets. I'm going to say on the streets, but nobody's actually stopping me on the streets because I don't walk the streets. But when I have folks say, "Oh, I caught this latest episode," or found a short of it on YouTube, I don't know if I'm surprised that people watch it. I think what I'm surprised is that the algorithm tends to put it in you know various people's YouTubes, and I guess that's somewhat exciting for me. Um, so I have a handful of episodes out now, and one of the questions I had from some folks, they said, "Hey, your episodes start at like 106 and 107. Where's the first five or six?" And I got to tell you, that is super double tip top secret. And so this is going to be episode 101. I don't know where it's going to go. Um, I am recording episode 101, the first episode of Dad Bod Walking, and I'm recording it 6 months into this experiment, and I've got some things I want to talk about. It's just going to be me today. You are stuck with me. The the podcast of friends is myself today, and but maybe through this episode you'll have a better grasp on what I'm trying to accomplish here, and we'll see where it goes. So, Dad Bod Walking started when Liam was born. For the first couple years, I felt like I was just trying to make it through the day with uh, Liam intact, my sanity intact, Beck safe, everybody just home and safe, and that was the goal every day. And at some point, I started uh, an account on the Twitters that was Dad Bod Walking. I thought Dead Man Walking was kind of fun, and clearly, if you're watching this on the YouTubes and not just listening, I am King Dad Bod. It is earned overnight. You just don't get this. You don't wake up one morning and you think, I'd like a dad bod. It's earned. So I did that, and I started documenting some of the things that I would get into with Liam. And you know, I don't know. At some point, you have to put the phone down and entertain the kid. In those first 6 9 months or whatever, they eat and they sleep. I mean, you play a little bit, you rattle some stuff, but they're just kind of figuring out what it is to actually open your eyes and see the world. So I had time and then I didn't have time, and I put it to bed for a while. As I'm not going to assume that any of you know my story. Let's just say this is then broadcast everywhere, that's a topic we'll get into in maybe another show of where this may end up going. Um, but November of 24, my mother had passed away, and that's probably going to be its own episode where maybe I find a therapist to come on and we just talk for an hour and a half about how sad that makes me. But one thing that my mom had always encouraged me to do is she always said, write a book, Bob, write a book. And I've told this story for coming up on a year now, and I can't write a book. I can't read, And and I mean that by as that gets edited and then put in some commercial somewhere later that Bob can't read. What I mean by that is I've never been able to open a book. I'm a visual learner, so I can't open a book and be in whatever world I am reading about. And it just never did anything for me. I can read an entire page, I can absorb the words, but I tell you, at the end of that page, I then look back and I wonder if I hadn't just disassociated the entire time and I was just going through an exercise because I it doesn't stick with me. I have a huge collection of books at home, and I think it's more just decoration than anything. I just can't read, and as such, I have almost zero desire to write a book. So I thought I would do this. I thought I would, well, let's do a podcast. I like techie things. I may even like buying and setting up tech more than I actually like doing the podcast. But I thought, well, let's see here. If I do an episode where I interview a friend or a colleague or somebody I had met in my travels, maybe that would be a chapter in this book that my mom always wanted me to write about my life. And why did she want me to do that? Because I have been unusually blessed with experiences that I look at some folks and I think, people may have one or two of these random experiences, but I've been so fortunate for a kid from Dyer to have all of these different experiences in life. My sister, whenever I do something new, she always says, "Bobby, you're always into something," and it's true. I find that I enjoy weaseling into different things from uh, just all sorts of stuff, politics and arts, all sorts of things. So I thought, okay, well, mom wanted me to write a book as a way to document all of my life experiences because they have been so varied. Um, I will probably I'm in my 40s now, and so maybe a little early to think about, what's the legacy you leave to the world. Certainly, my hope is that the biggest impact I leave on the world is uh, how Liam, uh, how I impact Liam and what that does for him. I think that's certainly my biggest responsibility. Um, but what will people, when someone says Bob Starkey, who was that? What did he do? There's a my gosh, there's a list of things that I think people could look back on. So I don't know. I've got a buddy of mine, Mike Neal. You're out there. You'll probably listen to this because you're my buddy and you'll do that. Is I know that while legacy building isn't what we're thinking about today, I think we're both of the age and the motivation to see that on the horizon. And um, so I think, okay, well, I've got this digital book now. I've got this platform where I can tell my story in a way where it is about other people and how we've met, what brought us together. If I think there is some type of meeting at an XY axis somewhere, it's the trajectory of my life, the trajectory of their life, and at some point we intersect. And I thought, Dad Bod Walking could really be a way for me to reach out to these folks and say, hey, we met, we've interacted, we've worked together, whatever it may be. Somehow we are together. Tell me about your story that got us to where we are. And um, so I think you'll find that to be a varied story. There may be some folks on here that you have no interest in listening to, fair enough. A lot of podcasts will be, hey, we only interview musicians. So if you like music, you may be interested in that. Or we are a political podcast, and all we do is talk about politics. I got to tell you, folks, I'm going to be a little bit of all of that. Um, I know certainly politicians and lawyers and actors and musicians, um, folks in public safety, neighbors. A guy I worked with, his name was Ron Hunter, recently passed. I have stolen a phrase of his, and it is a butcher, baker, candlestick maker. And in my mind, that was always his way of saying your average run of the mill folks. He used it in the context of a lot of times on town councils or municipalities or any of these boards and commissions or folks. A lot of these folks are not experts in that field. They're just folks who have an interest, have a desire to help out, have a desire to stroke their own ego, whatever it may be. But oftentimes on these civilian oversight boards, it's butcher, baker, candlestick maker, and they have nothing to do with a water utility or a parks department or any of those. They're just interested to be there. So I think what you'll find on Dad Bod Walking is just a little bit of everything. And what I would ask is that you stick with it. Um, some of these folks here, you may have zero interest in listening to an attorney. And I had Adam Cedia on not too long ago. And what was so fascinating about that is we talked about law, we talked about poetry, we talked about music, and it's a conversation between two people as if we're just shooting it on the back porch with a coffee. And I think there's uh, something special about that. I think there is a lot of people have a story. Sometimes they don't even know they have a story. It doesn't have to be a grand story. It just has to be their story. And I'm just really interested in what that is. I probably get some of that from my mom. We often joke that my mom could be in the grocery store and we would have lost her. We're off doing our thing, so and we come back, and if she was looking at the same box of cereal as the person saying next to her, she would talk to them and she would get to know their story. And it was a gift she had. I don't even know that it was mentally or emotionally draining for her. I think she really enjoyed communicating with people and casting a wide net. So if I can do that here in some form or fashion, that's what I'm interested in doing. Some of you may know me as the being on the town council in Dyer. I do a couple shows at WJOB, which I got to tell you, I think at some point here we're going to start streaming some of these episodes on the WJOB. They're developing a podcast network. It may be one of the first in the country that just streams podcasting. They've got a morning drive time show that they'll do, and then some community programming where school districts and municipalities, veterans organizations, they will come on, and for a half hour they'll share their story, as Jed likes to say. And once it's out there, it's out there. It's content that's been created, and I think that this may be a fantastic piece to put in there. I don't know what that's going to look like yet, and I have no problem sharing with you that I don't know what that's going to look like yet. My guess is that I will have um, maybe a 20 some minute clip um, that will air on this new podcast network. And From there, we'll talk about some of the podcasting that we've done, recent episodes, and then direct people back to where they can catch the episodes. Um, I am such a talker, and much to the chagrin of some folks around me, I can talk for a long time, and I don't know that the podcasts that I'm doing are an hour 15, hour 20, hour and a half. I think one was even 2 hours. They're not little snippets to just listen to and go to bed. Over time, I may change the format of those podcasts so it maybe is more 20 minutes at a time that I can break up and make it more easily digestible on a quick drive. But most of mine are kind of the podcasts that I like to listen to. I have, and I also want to be mindful of my guests. These aren't going to be 3 hour long Joe Rogan marathons, but I think that to get to the root of the story really does take some time. And so, yeah, they'll be an hour plus. So if you're taking a long drive, yeah, listen to one. Um, a lot of times I will put on a long form podcast if I'm going to be working in the garage or working, you know, putzing around the house, whatever it is, where it's nice having that distraction that isn't a television. Um, and so, still working about, again, where it's going to be. I think it will probably be on the WGOB podcast platform. I don't even know they have a name for it yet. I say they, but it's also a little we. I've found some uh, internal happiness and success doing a Monday morning broadcast, a Monday morning drive time show with Chuck Pullen, and we just wrapped up the summer of Chuck, and now we're going to be doing the fall of Chuck. Um, and we'll do that till the end of the year, and then maybe we'll have a winter of Chuck. Um, I think we'll probably do it as long as the radio station and the owner wants us there. I think we have decent content. It's really a region, and by region I mean a Northwest Indiana based conversation about uh, politics and society, life, art, happenings, events going on in what we call the region, Northwest Indiana. And so I think we have some success with that. I also do a podcast on WJOB now called Region Republicans. It's paid for by the Lake County Republican Party, and I think I more or less fell into that. The previous host, Andy Quinnell, great guy. He had hosted a Lake County Republican show for quite literally years, and he did a phenomenal job. I certainly stand on his shoulders and his introduction. If it weren't for him, I probably would have never stepped into the studio and gotten behind a mic. And now I fast forward, I think maybe 8 years since I did it the first time, and now I've got this studio that if you're watching on YouTube, it's uh, I put it together. Very happy with it. It shows my my nerdiness. If you're watching, if you're listening, just have to trust that I'm a big nerd. Um, but he, at some point, as with all things, it's time to hang up the hat, and I took it over, and that went well. I also do a half hour show once a month on the town of Dyer. Events we have going on there, getting information out to residents about things that are going on, things they need to know, answering questions. And so I find myself today behind the mic weekly. And this was never something that I thought I would. It wasn't on my bucket list, wasn't on my bingo sheet, but here I am. And so I have the equipment. The talent is questionable, but I think I think this could be something that if you're all interested, you know, hit me up. Come be on the show. I mean, obviously, if you're listening, we're connected somehow, some way. Even if you're just a listener that picks it up and says, "Hey, I caught you on the radio one time, and you said something completely ridiculous, and Chuck disagreed with you. Um, the producers did. Everybody disagreed with you, and I think you're a nut, Bob. But I listened to you and I remembered you. If you've got something, reach out to me. Uh, I would say probably the easiest way is social media. Bob Starkey, come find me. Come find Dad Bod Walking. Uh, like, share, subscribe, comment. All of those things that they ask you to do to help the algorithm. The algorithm's a lot like a credit score where we think we know how it works, but it's really just some guy in a back room pulling levers. But yeah, sure. On that note, like, share, subscribe, do all those things. Dad Bod Walking, the YouTubes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Those are the platforms that I'm on. Um, and Instagram, Facebook. Facebook is nice. I personally love Instagram. I'm not on the TikToks because I hear that the Chinese folks are in on that. I don't know. I've just um, I'm on Snap and I don't know why. I think I put maybe two pictures up there and two pictures, photos, snaps. Do we call them snaps? It's just more of a voyeur on that than anything, just watching the goofy things that people post. And it's typically just um, folks walking around, videoing what they're doing, walking around. And while I kind of give a goofy face to the camera on that, I mean, that's what I'm doing here. I mean, that's all we're doing is we're just sitting and talking and going on with that. So, um, uh, Jim Dietlow tells me that 22 minutes is the sweet spot um, for a podcast. So I think if anything, this is going to be my introduction to the world for Dad Bod Walking. I hope it sheds some light on what I'm trying to do here over the course of time. I really hope that I you know you, I want to know more about you. That's how I like I said I don't read. It does nothing for me. So I like interaction as a form to get to know folks. So I hope you'll reach out um, uh, to me. Give me a call, give me a text. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, all of my information is out there. Every way you could possibly contact me. Um, I would prefer dadbodwalking at gmail.com. That would be the preferred way to just send me an email, and that way we can get stuff done. But, just about everybody has my cell phone number, socials. Hit me up. I'd love to have you on here so we can talk and see where we go from there. So that's all I got. I'm signing off. Everybody, have a good one.